Our brains are not well equipped for long-term planning. And one of the ways in which we're consistently bad at planning is that we underestimate how long it will take us to complete a task, especially when that task is complex and involves many steps. This is known as the planning fallacy. One study that demonstrates the planning fallacy with college students asked undergraduates who were completing a senior thesis in psychology to estimate how long it would take them to finish that thesis in the best case scenario where everything goes according to plan. They also asked them to estimate how long it would take to finish their thesis in the worst case scenario where everything that could go wrong does go wrong. And these students estimated that their senior thesis would take them anywhere from 4 to 7 weeks to complete, depending on how many things did go wrong, where in actuality, it took the average student 8 weeks to complete their thesis. This is the planning fallacy at work and demonstrates why many college students always seem like they're completing things at the last minute. It's because they don't allot themselves enough time to complete these tasks. So how can we help students deal with the planning fallacy? One way is through the act of chunking, which is the act of taking a complex task and breaking it down into individual steps. So in this study, undergraduates were brought into a laboratory, shown a very nice hors d'oeuvres platter, and told your task for today is to recreate this hors d'oeuvres platter, kind of like a cooking competition show. But before they did that, they had to estimate how long they thought it would take them to recreate this hors d'oeuvres platter. One group made that guess, whereas the other group first chunked the hors d'oeuvres platter into steps. They had to slice up the fruit and the cheese. They had to fill celery with the special filling. They had to actually boil shrimp, and they had to take cooked meat and place it onto skewers. And so what they found was when students just guessed how long it would take them to do this hors d'oeuvres platter, they underestimated the time by about 10 minutes. But when they did this chunking process first, their estimates of how long it would take them were spot on. And so whenever we have to help students tackle a complex process like registration, FAFSA, or finding a summer internship, we should encourage them to chunk it into steps. So when we're thinking about a summer internship, rather than just telling students they should complete this by early March, we can chunk it into different steps for them, like finding the list of open internships and figuring out what are the requirements and due dates. Research those companies that have open internships. Reach out to any former interns in your network to discuss what it was like to work there. Draft up your resume and your cover letter, and of course, take those to career services for help. And finally, applying to those internships. Once this process is chunked out, you can put deadlines on each of these sub-steps and help students create an implementation plan in order for them to complete all of those sub-goals by those deadlines.